Welcome to the Flipper Channel Dispatch for February 27th, 2025. I scrape the best old car stuff off the interweb so you don't have to. I'm Stephen, and welcome to the first ever dispatch. I've been searching for a way to share the interesting pre-war car content that I find on the internet, and this news magazine style format is what I've settled on. People are constantly posting interesting or funny, and sometimes both, content on social media or on forums or on YouTube. If I find it and I think it's interesting, I'm going to share it here. I plan to post a dispatch video here every week or two, reliably and without fail, except for when I can't or I don't feel like it. I found this on Facebook. It's kind of funny. This fellow and his father ran out of gas on their Model A two-door just as they pulled into the driveway. And then the father, who has very big feet, struggled to get out of the car. The side mount spare, although stylish, also exacerbated the problem. Poor guy, I feel bad laughing at this, but I find it hard to get in and out of my T, so I totally understand. Let's listen in.
Get it out of this goddamn car! I think we're in the... Wait. I gotta get my... Gotta try to get my head on it. I can't get my foot out.
I think people must have been smaller in the 1920s, don't you? I mean, look at the size of the passenger compartment in a Model A or Model T. They're tiny. So I did a little digging. I found this article. So this article looked at how the average height of people has changed over time.
A century ago, American men ranked as the third tallest in the world, standing at 171 centimeters, 5 feet 7 inches. Now, they place as the 37th with an average of 177 centimeters, 5 feet 10 inches. Similarly, American women had ranked as the fourth tallest in the world at 159 centimeters, 5 feet 3 inches. Now, they stand as the 42nd tallest in the world with an average of 163.5 centimeters, 5 feet 4 inches. While Americans didn't experience big gains in height, their body mass index increased a great deal, the report found.
Now, I found another article that also corroborates this.
Some countries, such as the US and the UK, have seen the average height of their population level off over the last several decades. The US has dropped rather precipitously in the world rank of average height, from third for men and fourth for women in 1914 to 37th and 42nd, respectively, today.
If you see this chart, you can see that in 1920, people were just a little less tall than they were in the late 90s, for example. So we haven't grown much in 100 years, at least not vertically. I guess bigger people in the 20s and 30s had the same problems getting in and out of those small car cabins as we have today. If they had doorbell cameras in the 20s, we might even have some video evidence of a similar situation with someone struggling to get out of one of those small car cabins. Isn't progress great? Early Fords are small. If you're a big guy or gal and you want to enjoy an old car, well, you better start playing Twister now to get limbered up. And you better prepare yourself mentally for an ordeal getting in and out of the car most times. And there's none of the modern conveniences you're used to. no 8-way power adjustable seats, no tilt and telescoping steering wheel. Those early Fords are simply one size fits none. Now, over on the Model T Ford Club on Facebook, I found this photo. Now, this isn't funny. Yikes. Model Ts made before 1919 had a design flaw that made them prone to this problem. The wishbone radius rod for the front axle was mounted over the axle, allowing the axle to fold under and back, like we see here. Here you can see that radius rod bent and the front axle folded under. Now, this was a recognized design flaw, and the aftermarket soon offered improvements like these additional radius rods. This design was corrected by Ford in later years. It was a simple design change. The wishbone was attached under the axle. But some of the comments in this particular post on Facebook are hilarious, particularly when the grammar police show up.
Hope Noon was hurt. It's the weak over the axle wishbone used on all Ts up until early 19 that causes this kind of accidents on bad roads.
Why do you wish Noon was hurt? What did Noon do to you to make you mad at Noon? No one knows why you are mad at Noon and want Noon hurt. No one.
If you're smart enough to know what's wrong, then you should be smart enough not to need to point out someone else's error. Because whether you know it or not, your poo doesn't smell any better for your efforts. Point out a few of your own mistakes before starting in on someone else.
But seriously, this accident could have been much worse. Henry Ford knew that the over-the-axle radius rod was a problem and eventually designed it out. If you have an earlier T with one of the over-the-axle wishbones, you should seriously think about finding one of the period-correct double wishbone solutions, or simply upgrade the whole front axle assembly to one of the newer designs. Over on the Model T Ford Club of America forum page, there's been a lively discussion about supply issues for spare parts.
I read with interest and concern of the recent posts regarding shortages for spare parts. In this recent post we see issues with outside oil lines, rings for cast iron pistons, thrust washers, bushings, and other wear items. In the not-too-distant past we experienced shortages with head gaskets, generator regulators, gas tanks. Mark Chaffin brings up a valid point that this is what our future will look like as the smaller mom-and-pop workshops go by the wayside, and the higher costs for our suppliers to carry inventories. For many years, we hobbyists have enjoyed, and got spoiled with our just-in-time inventory due to the once many NOS supplies that once existed, the amount of small shops producing parts, and the vast amount of local supplies and/or suppliers that one time existed.
Predictably, it degenerated into a discussion about kids these days.
Seems like the high schools got rid of metal shop and wood shop, those hands-on learning experiences that are so invaluable. Then our society adopted this mentality of, you need a college degree, or you will never amount to anything. Hogwash, I say.
The interest is just not there. Kids are sucking up self-driving golf carts called Teslas. Gearheads are into rice rockets now. Cry if you wish. It just won't do any good.
Man, did I just have a flashback. Remembered a kid falling asleep in class, and that loaded chalk-filled eraser flying across the room from the teacher hitting the kid in the head, and chalk dust blowing out like a bomb. So cool. Priceless memories. Can't do it now.
But there is some hope.
Vinyl records have recently outsold CDs for the second consecutive year, with 43 million vinyl records sold in 2023 compared to 37 million CDs. Vinyl generated significantly more revenue, earning $1.4 billion versus $537 million from CDs, reflecting a growing preference for physical music formats among consumers. Popular Science.
But that statistic ignores streams and downloads, which I'm sure swamp any vinyl or CD sales. But it's still a little reassuring to see physical media making a comeback. Now, I'm new to the Model T world. I've only been into these old cars for a couple years, but in that short time I've already noticed that there's been a significant reduction in the amount and the variety of reproduction remanufactured spare parts that are available. I've seen the number of radiator manufacturers cut in half, and the supply of electronic cutouts for generators dry up completely. As mentioned in the forum, I think we can expect more and more of these remanufactured parts to become extinct. We're going to need to become more creative about repairing old parts, and we're going to have to start finding ways to make some replacement parts from scratch ourselves. We've had it good. Now we have to see how the other half has lived. Let's face it, the owners of other brands of antique cars have had to learn ways to get by without remanufactured parts, and now so will we. The guru of all things Model A, Paul Shinn, has recently released a video explaining all the things you should take with you when you go on a long trip. There's great advice in there for Model A people. And he also provides step-by-step instructions how to hotwire a Model A. Isn't the internet great?
So, when you plug this in to your distributor, you thread that in there. This clip lead will go right here on the other side of the coil, right here. Or if you have your Model A wired exactly per the forward plan, it would be on the passenger side of the coil. So not the wire that goes directly to the junction box, but the side of the coil with a wire that goes to the ignition switch. That right there goes on that. Boom, done. You have completely bypassed the ignition switch, the ignition cable, most of the wiring in the dash panel, and you can run your Model A directly. I mean, okay. It's kind of like hot wiring a car. Okay, it's exactly like hot wiring a car. So this is not really meant for those people who would be inclined to take someone's car without asking permission, but it'll get you back on the road anyway. Of course, now, when you are done, when you've arrived at your destination and you want to shut the car off, you have to disconnect the alligator clip from the coil. That shuts the engine off. Next morning, you're ready to go somewhere, connect it up, boom, start the car, off you go. This will save you on a road trip, or maybe one of your buddies, if something crazy goes on with the ignition system or the ignition switch, pop-out switch fails, happens all the time. This will save your bacon. There's a link in the description below how to get you one of these.
But seriously, he explains how you can bypass the ignition switch and other stuff, so you can get your Model A back on the road. If you've ever had electromagical gremlins behind the dash, you know that this would be a good skill to have. Paul Shinn prophesizes, stuff happens when you're far from home.
So I've yet to have to use this on one of my Model A's, but it has come in handy several times of getting somebody else in our group back on the road, because when you're far away from home, that's when stuff happens, of course.
Paul's videos are an encyclopedia for Model A owners. He's the Don of the Model A Mafia. So check out his videos if you haven't already been recruited into the gang. Are you subscribed to Model T Campin' Adventures on YouTube? You should be. Donnie and Kathy take their Model T and their vintage camping gear on adventures in the Ozarks. And I'm not kidding when I say adventures. They make the phrase off the beaten path have real meaning. I mean, look at this road. And this campsite. They camp like it's 100 years ago, and all their camping equipment is vintage. It's like going back in time. Their latest video highlights a display they made of their camp setup with the Arkansas Tin Lizzies. Link is in the description. I never miss one of their videos. They're always fantastic. The camera work by Kathy is excellent, and I always enjoy Donnie's commentary. Now remember, coming up, Thursday, March 6th is the next Flivver Channel Live, and this is going to be a good one. We have a special guest. It's Todd Touchbury from Coast to Coast for Hydrocephalus fame, and also he's the proprietor of Tin Lizzie's Cafe in Sumter, South Carolina. Be sure to join us live and participate by commenting or asking questions while we're live on the air. Now, let me see. Are there any other announcements I need to make? Oh yeah, one more. The Flivver Channel store is now open. As my good friend Randall says, now I'm just like any other money-grubbing tuber. But seriously, we've tried to make some unique items that we think will appeal to antique car enthusiasts. For example, we've made these solid brass key tags. They look like they've been in someone's pocket for 100 years. They're perfect for your antique car keys, and they're a great way to support the channel. I can talk more about our one-of-a-kind products in a future dispatch episode, unless your comments make it clear that you just want me to shut up about it. And this brings us to the end of this very first dispatch. Thanks for sticking it out with me while I find my footing in this new format. Tune in the coming weeks for more old car nonsense from the web. Feel free to comment right here on YouTube. I read every single comment. But if you really want to join in the conversation, connect with us on Facebook. Link is in the description. We can discuss previous editions of the dispatch, and we can discuss topics and content for future editions. It's a great way to get involved. Now that's a wrap for this edition of the Flivver Channel Dispatch. Thanks for watching. My name's Steven.